I want to learn how to roast coffee, but I have no idea where to start. This is something that I hear very often, and this is why I did this video, where we have a look at this question very specifically. I'm Ingo from Roastables, and now let's go. Coffee roasting is getting more and more popular, but people are then often a bit overwhelmed, or they're asking themselves now, how can I start it? Because sometimes from the outside it looks very, very difficult, but I can tell you that it is not as difficult as you might think. Nevertheless, there are some things to be considered, and in this video we will first have a look at what aspects are there to be learned if you want to get into coffee roasting, and after that we will have a look at some possibilities where you can learn coffee roasting. But if you start with the basics, what I would recommend you, and this might be maybe a little bit surprising for you, is that in first place, before you learn anything else, you have to learn about sensory skills in coffee. The reason for that is, at the end, coffee roasting is not really rocket science. At the end, it's not that you're looking for a specific profile or machine or grinder. At the end, you're looking for a beverage that you have in your cup. You want to have a pleasant cup of coffee, and therefore you first need to understand what is actually then a thing that you like in a coffee or a thing that you don't like in a coffee. Coffee can be really broad. It can have a lot of different nuances when it comes to sweetness, when it comes to acidity, bitterness, then also mouthfeel and all that. So there is a lot to understand and know in coffee, and before you even get into coffee roasting, you need to understand what you like and what you don't like, what is out there, because this is the basic. If you understand this, then everything else will be much, much, much easier for you, not only in roasting, but also in coffee preparation, for example. So before you even think about courses or workshops or anything else, what you have to do now and from now on is you have to drink as much as possible or as often as possible coffee where you exactly know where it's coming from. So if you go to smaller roastery that are giving you all the information on the packaging, if you go to specialty coffee shops that are giving you the more and more information you have about the coffee, the more and more you will learn about the differences. So knowing which kind of origin is it, how it has been processed, how it has been roasted, at least how light or dark, is just information that will help you to understand what are then the influences on the taste of a coffee. Even better so if you're not only then drinking a coffee here and there, so today here, tomorrow there, but if you then have different coffees side by side. So you can look out for possibilities to do cuppings. Coffee festivals are, for example, a wonderful possibility to try a lot of coffees side by side, but there are also then sensory courses. So if anybody is always asking me about how to learn coffee or coffee roasting, the first thing I can then really recommend to anybody is go to a coffee sensory education and then learn about the sensory in coffee. And then the next thing, and still we are not into coffee roasting profiles or anything, the next thing, in my opinion, is understanding green coffee beans or green coffee differences. The reason for that is that coffee can taste really, really, really remarkably different depending on where it is coming from, how it has been processed. So you must understand what is a washed, a natural, an anaerobic processed coffee. You must then also understand things about coffee density and how coffee has been grown. So these are then really things you need to understand. You need to have experienced in your own sensory side by side. So don't only learn it by theory. Theory is one thing, but then practical use and then really having cupped a lot of different green beans is extremely important. Maybe just to give you an understanding on how we sometimes think when you are getting into coffee roasting and how less sense this might make. Imagine you want to start barbecuing, so you want to invite your friends on a weekend for barbecuing. You buy yourself a barbecue, and when you want to make them a nice barbecue experience, it's not that you first are going to concentrate about the temperature of the meat inside and the profile and how exactly the heat is being transferred. In first thing, you need to understand, am I going to buy a sausage, a lamb rack, a fish, or some vegetables, because it will be much, much more different in taste what you are putting on the barbecue then how exactly your roasting profile or your barbecue profile will be in the inside temperature of the meat or so. Not to neglect that, roasting profiles are something that we can have a look at, but first of all, you need to understand then what are the differences in green beans and which are the green beans that you need to use. And therefore, you also find courses like for sensory, so you can do green bean courses. But I think actually for green bean, it's really more something that you want to learn than in practical use. So also go to coffee festivals, go to cuppings, buy yourself some different green beans in small amounts so that you can get then a sensory understanding of the differences. By the way, we are also selling green coffee bean in small amounts all over Europe. We have fast shipping from 150 euros, even free shipping. So you find our green bean assortment here. But this is not here for advertising. I really want to give you information about how to learn coffee or coffee roasting. The next things, when you have these two domains that you understand, then is coffee roasting. And here also for you to understand, I said it before, it's really my opinion from the bottom of my heart, coffee roasting is not rocket science. So don't already jump into the small nuances in roast profiles. I know we are all tempted to do so. We see all those discussions online. We see all those people that are really then passionate about the rate of rise or anything like that. And while it does have a difference, still there are some other factors that have a much bigger influence. So in first instance, before you start to get crazy with all the nuances, you need to understand the basics about coffee roastings, which are not so difficult. We are talking about a preheating temperature. We are talking about temperature during the roast, airflow during the roast, how light or dark you're roasting a bean, then also how fast or slow you're roasting a bean. We are talking about basic concepts of your coffee roasting machine, how temperature is measured, how they are working. So these are really then basic concepts that you need to understand to roast coffee. And when you understand those concepts, when you understand green coffee beans, then you will already get to a quite nice result. And to understand those basics in coffee roasting, there are several ways which we are going to talk about then very soon. And now that you understood all of this, we can now go to the fourth topic, which are then details about roasting profiles. And this is actually really a lot of fun because you can get all the latest nuances then really out of a bean with working on the roasting profile. So you can get more or less sweetness, you can get those flavor notes, you can get those more maybe like bold notes, work on the mouthfeel. These are things that you can influence on the roasting profile. Nevertheless, as said before, there are other aspects that have a higher influence, but once you manage that, then you can start getting into roasting profiles. Roasting profiles, working the roasting profiles is then also related to sensory. So this is something that you can do on job, but this is also something that you can then train in coachings or trainings or courses, things that we are going to talk about right now, because now we want to switch from the basic concepts or things that you learn in coffee roasting to then ways where and how you can learn it now. So first thing are then courses where you're really present. So courses where you're really present is of course then a great way to learn about coffee roasting, especially so if you are then have a lot of praxis. So if you do a lot of exercises in this, if you're standing at the roaster, if you're roasting coffee, if you're cupping coffee, if you're discussing with others, if you can ask questions to your trainer, then courses where you are present are really a great way of learning coffee roasting. They are often a bit expensive because, of course, somebody has to take time. They need all the infrastructure. So present courses are often a bit more expensive. Good thing, on the other hand, is you are investing some money, you are investing your time. So you are then really most probably tempted to concentrate, be fully there, and then to really take the time that you are there to learn and develop your coffee roasting skills. So this is, of course, a really great way to learn about coffee roasting. I know quite a lot of places where you can have good coffee roasting education in the German-speaking part of Europe. I also do the same video then in German. If you are here from the German-speaking region, have a look at the video right here. Besides of that, like in other countries, there is quite a big variety. So look out on the internet. The Specialty Coffee Association website often gives you then hints, or you might find it by talking to friends, where you can do good present courses then to learn about coffee roasting. We are also giving a coffee roasting course here in Zurich. And in this course, which takes about 4.5 hours, we are then really jumping into coffee roasting. We have a broad range of people that are coming, from beginners to experienced coffee roasters. So it's nice discussions that we always have. And there is then always a part where we learn theory about green coffee beans, but then directly jumping into roasting different green coffee beans. Then we learn about theory of roasting, really like with the practical aspect in order to give you the factors that have the highest influence on the taste. Then we go and roast one coffee in 4 different ways. We are going to cup the coffee at the end. Then you will have the possibility to choose for yourself which green coffee bean, which roast style you are going to use to roast a coffee that is 100% to your liking. So depending if you like to have a fruity cold brew or a traditional Italian espresso, you can then at the end of the course do exactly the coffee that you love to do. If this is something of interest to you, then have a look at our website here. Usually those courses are in German, but we also had people that are coming and I can give you then the whole documentation in English. You can then ask me questions in English. I can answer it in English, but usually then most of them are in German. Nevertheless, we also maybe once or twice a year will also do courses that are in English. So just have a look at our website, roastables.com, if this is of interest to you. And then next thing are online courses. Online courses have some advantages, some disadvantages to present courses. A good advantage of online courses is, they're often then cheaper because it's a bit easier to organize. And then it's also something that you can do whenever you like. So you're much more flexible. If, for example, you have a job and you cannot then take a full day off or some days off for a coffee roasting education, you can do an online course in your speed. So on your decision when you want to take it and how fast you want to take it. So this is a very convenient way of learning. The only thing that you have to take into consideration is when you're doing online courses, then you don't have the structure thing where you do the sensory part. And as I said, this is really important, in my opinion, if you want to learn about coffee roasting. So if you do an online course, then make sure that when you learn something, you give it a try as fast as possible. So do then a practical use, take a roasting machine, roast coffee differently, dependent on what you have learned, so that you can get then the sensory feedback on the theory that you have just learned. We have an online platform which is called Roast Travels Academy. There we have some online courses that are then really based on helping you to immediately roast a nice coffee. We have them for the moment specific for some machines, like for example the Alio Bullet or the Kaffelogic Nano. So you can get the machine, you understand how the machine is working, you understand green coffee beans, you understand roasting, and then you also do some practical experiences. So this is something you can surely have a look at. Maybe in the future we will add some more courses. If you are interested in some specific courses, then also let me know in the comment. I'm happy to have a look at it. And then also you might look for other people or other companies that are offering online courses. There are a few out there, not so many like present courses, but still there are quite a few places where you can do good online courses on coffee or coffee roasting. And then on the other hand, when it comes to information in the internet, there is quite a lot out there meanwhile about coffee roasting. So you can have a look at YouTube videos. We also have a lot of videos in our channel. By the way, you can go through the channel or subscribe to the channel. If you're interested in that, we do a lot of interviews, webinars, or talk about some technical things about green coffee beans, but there are also a lot of other people that are also then sharing a lot of knowledge on YouTube. There are a lot of blogs, there are boards, coffee boards, groups, and so on. The only thing when you're looking for information out there in the internet is that you need to be a bit aware of who is publishing then this content, who is behind it. Is it a person that you understand, or a person where you know what is the background of this person, or what this person then is also doing, what's kind of the roasting concepts or the coffee concepts of these people that are behind it. This is, of course, going to help a lot, because maybe a bit less in YouTube than in blogs, there is a lot of content out there, and it's of course then exponentially increasing, that has been developed with artificial intelligence, so blogs and all that have been developed by ChatGPT or so. And here the risk is that if you don't know who is behind, if it just has been generated by AI, that's the information that is coming out of it is actually a little bit, let's say, basic, or even often then not really helpful. I also try to work with the AI to like find answers to questions on coffee roasting. And I have to be honest, it's really not great what's coming out of it there. So if you find blogs, information, even if it sounds very smart and then very conceptual and very logic, have a look at who has been published it. Is it a company or a person where you have trust, where you know this person knows about coffee roasting, or is it just some company where you don't even know who is really behind it? Then you have a high risk that it has just been AI generated, and then I would really be careful on that content, to be honest. One way of learning, and here you really know who is behind it, are then books on coffee roasting. And here, especially the books of Scott Rao are a good start. There are also good books about coffee roasting made by Rob House. You will see I have some interviews with Rob. I really like the work he's doing. What is really good at the books that have been written by Scott Rao is then really giving you a concept about coffee roasting where you can start with, where you will get good results. He has like his first book that he wrote, and then in best practices, he went a bit more specifically on specific questions. So this is something that is helping really a lot of people to start getting into coffee roasting. And then there are also the books from Book of Roast. Let's say Roast Magazine is publishing a lot of content and information about coffee roasting, which is really, really, really good. They do it with a lot of great people. So also maybe a recommendation for you to then subscribe to the Roast Magazine. And here then out of these Roast Magazine's articles, then enhanced with also specific articles that they made for this book. They have developed the Book of Roast and Book of Roast Volume 2, where you get a lot of information about coffee roasting. You see, they are quite thick. So if you are the kind of person that likes to read, then here you get a lot of content to learn about coffee roasting. We talked about YouTube and blogs before. Of course, there are also coffee boards, and I love coffee boards or coffee groups. There are Discord channels, Facebook coffee boards where you can exchange with people about coffee roasting. It's so nice because you can just ask your questions. You get feedbacks. You get feedback from people that have the same passion like you and that are also then experienced. Nevertheless, maybe a bit less than in blogs, but still when it comes to coffee boards, you have to understand who is then actually giving you an answer. Maybe look who this person is, how he or she usually writes, because then often there are people with strong opinions that have their own concept or understanding of coffee, which might be a little bit different from yours. So nevertheless, give it a try, go there, exchange with people, learn about coffee roasting, but just bear in mind that at the end, each person in this world have a different understanding of good coffee, and this is just something that you need to understand when you want to learn from anybody about coffee or coffee roasting. Another thing, but this is mainly then if you have already started and if you have specific question, is to go and get a consultant in coffee or coffee roasting. These can be people that are then physically coming to you. So internationally, these are people like Rob House, Scott Rao, Morten Münkhoff. There will be much more around. Nikolai Fürst is also giving them trainings on coffee roasting. We have in the German-speaking region of Europe, I know a lot of people here. When it comes to green beans or sensory, you can go to Gloria Bedrosa. When it comes to roasting, we have a lot of people who are then giving workshops or trainings here, especially if you're from the German-speaking region. Then have a look at the video that we published here. I say some names there. So this is something that you can then really do. ask these people then specifically about questions or problems that you have and get immediate answer or feedbacks that you can then apply, and that will then help you getting much better when it comes to coffee roasting. So this is something that you can have a look at. There are some people around there who are then really great and experienced and helpful if you want to then further develop your coffee roasting. Usually then you don't take a consultant at the very beginning. Usually you already start roasting, and then when you have an issue or when you think I want to get one step ahead, then you are going to reach out for a coffee consultant. And then there is a way which I personally also like a lot and recommend you a lot, and this is actually learning by doing. Especially now with a machine like, for example, the Kaffelogic Nano 7, which, if you know me, you might know that I pretty much like this machine and also recommend it to people who are starting into coffee roasting. So with this machine, you can more or less press the button and you get a really nice cup of coffee. So you can take this machine, or also Nucleus Link, for example, and then work first with different green coffee beans. So buy yourself maybe 4, 5, 6 different green coffee beans, put them in the roaster, try these coffees side by side to understand which one you like most. Then next, when you have then one coffee, do roast them into different darknesses or roast levels. In the Nano, for example, it's then directly called roast level. So you can take a coffee, roast it to roast level 1, 3, 5, try it, which one you liked most. If, for example, then the coffees that are roasted to level 3 and 5 are a bit more to your liking than the one that is roasted to roast level 1, then you are going to do the next roast with 3.5, 4, 4.5, and can cup these coffees again so that you get more and more and more into then the things that you like, or better understanding of the green coffee beans as well as then the roast styles that you like when it comes to coffee roasting. And then when you have a machine like this, like specifically for the Kaffelogic Nano 7, or then also for the ID Bullet, we have then workshops that we are giving you if you get the machine from us. Otherwise, you can just then go to our Roast Rebels Academy where you get the courses. They will help you then to really quickly understand the machine, get great results, and even more so for this kind of machines, you have great groups or boards or Discord channels where you can then exchange with people and then further develop your skills and then getting better and better and better at coffee roasting directly while doing it and having a nice coffee experience. So this is something that I can always also recommend if you are interested in getting started and just play around with coffee and develop your coffee roasting skills. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you have some own experiences like good trainers, good courses, good books, good places, or good ways where you learned about coffee roasting, then write it in the comment. Share it, please, because we are such a nice and passionate community when it comes to coffee roasting. So great to share those experiences. And then, of course, if you're interested in any of the offerings that we have, so for example, then the present courses, or also the academy, the online courses, the machines we've been talking about, then have a look at our website, roastrebels.com, where you get all of those tools. Also, if you have any specific question about coffee roasting or coffee in general, I'm always happy to help. You'll find my contact on roastrebels.com.